Hi there. Welcome everyone to another YouTube live session on the Pinkfish Studio channel. Looks like everything's working fine. Looks like I'm live. So yeah, hello everyone. Welcome. I know I say this every time, but it feels like it's been an eternity since I've been on here. And today I'm going to be using the Making the Best of It collection, mostly to create a scrapbook layout. But before I start, I want to just mention a few, just a few things. So first of all, normally there's either Heather or Leah joining us in the chat, behind the Pinkfish Studio name, kind of helping out with any questions or any issues. This time, unfortunately, they are both not available to do that because I believe they are traveling for Create. And so it's me, and I will try to, answer any questions as well as I can. But there's also Natalie in the chat. Hi there. So I know that she will be helping out as well if you have any concerns, any questions, or if I miss anything. But another thing that I wanted to mention before we get started is that currently the Pinkfish Studio website is under maintenance. So, there's not a lot that Heather or Leah could do right now anyway. So they wouldn't be able to link to any products or anything. And you will notice that when you click on the products that I linked in the description below, it leads you to, it just says we are making some changes. We will be back soon. So don't be worried. I think the website is supposed to be back live tomorrow, but don't quote me on that. And I will be updating the video description in case there are any more products that I mention or that I use. But that's why it's not really possible to link any products or anything in the chat right now. Okay, but there will be a $15 gift card at the end of this live session. So that's not changing. I think Heather or Leah is going to pop in at the end to select a winner. And if you haven't joined any of the YouTube lives before, just a quick FYI how that works. So all you have to do is be active in the chat. So every time you write something in the chat is another entry to be eligible to win that $15 gift card for the Pinkfish Studio shop. And let us know when you shared this video with your friends, when you shared it on Instagram or any other social media, when you liked the video. So every time you comment, you get another entry. Okay, I think that's, hi Susie, I think that's all the things that I wanted to mention. Hi Karen, Kim, Beth. So, okay, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and switch my camera so that you can see what I have prepared for today. Okay. It looks good. Let's wait for YouTube Live to catch up. All right. So here you can see what we'll be working with, or I will be working with today. So I have the Making the Best of It collection here. I also have some photos right here. I'm not going to use all of them, but as usual, I'm still a bit indecisive of which one I'm going to use. The only thing that they have in common is that they are all in black and white, and they all feature my son. Apart from the Making the Best of It collection, I'm also going to use the Winterberries frame product suite. Because if you check the video description, it already says there that I'll be using these products, this holiday themed set to create a non-holiday themed layout. Because I wanted to kind of combine some sort of stamping, ink blending, something like that with this collection today. And while looking through my stash of Pink Fresh Studio goodies, I came across this set, and it reminded me of all the beautiful pieces in this collection, especially this foiled vellum set. And I feel like it works really well, especially when you kind of customize the colors a little bit so that they are not that Christmassy. And you can already see the ink selection I have here. I did do some prep work because otherwise I still have to create a scrapbook layout. So I don't want to spend all of the time just stamping, heat embossing, and ink blending, all of that. So what I did was I stamped this image here with some clear embossing ink on a piece of white cardstock, and then embossed it with some, I always forget the name. It's that wow metallic, super fine, super duper gold, whatever, embossing powder. I did that twice. And one time I already did the ink blending. So you can see here, instead of doing red berries that you would probably do if you were using this set for some Christmas cards, for example, I did blue. And I used the Summer Shower and the Storm inks for that. And for the leaves, I used Evergreen and Eucalyptus. And I love how they turned out, especially the Storm feels like a perfect match to the blue in this collection. So you can see here. Oops. So if I put it on there, not sure if you can see really well. And then also the Summer Shower is a great match for this lighter blue in the collection. So that was one set that I did in those colors. And as I said, I stamped in a second one, and I'm gonna do the ink blending for that second one live. It's a relatively easy set because it only has 3 stencils and they are not layered as such. And I'm going to explain in a second why they are not layered. And there is also a coordinating hot foil plate for that. And I would have loved to use it, but unfortunately I don't have it. So to get this shiny gold look that is also, that you can also find in the ephemera, in the whole collection, I did do the heat embossing. But if you have the hot foil plate, even better, because then you can just hot foil it in gold or, whatever foil you like. All right. Just checking the chat real quick. I know that Natalie and Susie are going to do a great job of answering and chatting with you, so I'm not too worried, but still. Okay. And there's another thing. So, well, no, let me back up. Let me start from the beginning. So you can see there are 3 stencils. One stencil is just for the leaves. Let me check real quick. That way around. So this is going to give you all of the leaves. And then there are 2 stencils for the berries, but they are not layered. So one stencil covers some of the berries and the other stencil covers the rest of the berries. So you won't be layering ink colors unless you do it on the same stencil, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to start with the berries, which is stencil 2. But, as I said, you can do it in whatever order you like, because since they're not layered, it doesn't really matter. And now I'm gonna have to put my head in front of the camera a few times. I'm sorry about that, but to get the stencil kind of, really sort of perfectly aligned, I kind of have to do that a little bit. Oh, now see, the problem that I was going to mention that I did have with the first set, it isn't as visible on the second, but I'm still going to mention it. So what happened for when I did the first set, when I started to adhere the stencils, it's still a little bit of an issue. Sorry. All right, so since this is, so you can see here, this stamp set or this stamp is a frame, or they are at least, kind of arranged in a frame, and it is one single stamp. So you can see here, when I pull this off, it gives you this opening in the middle. Now what happened? You can see that my stencil doesn't line up perfectly. Every time I lined up the lower flower or the lower berries perfectly, the ones up here are kind of, off to the side. And every time I get those perfectly, those aren't aligned perfectly. So what happened, and what I didn't kind of keep in mind while stamping, was that when I pulled the stamp off the backing sheet, I kind of, how would you say it? I kind of twisted it a little bit, or, it didn't keep, I'm not sure how to explain it. Let me grab my MISTI. So when I placed it in my MISTI, I just kind of, placed it down like this, and I didn't really pay attention if it was kind of distorted. Is that what you would say? So, so what I'm trying to tell you is that for a set like this, where it's really, where you have something like this that's a little bit flexible, it does make sense to use your the backing sheet, the carrier sheet, where the stamp set comes on. Sorry. To use this, to make sure. Sorry, I'm doing it all. Let me put something underneath so that you can see. Like so. So when you put it down like this, so here you can see, you could make sure that your stamp lines up perfectly with the image on the backing sheet. And that way you can ensure that you didn't twist your stamp while putting it down, which I didn't do while I was stamping. So that's why my stencil doesn't line up perfectly with the stamp. So there's nothing wrong with the stencil, and there's also nothing wrong with the stamp set as such. It's just that I didn't pay attention while stamping. So if you ever have that situation where you feel like whatever you do, it doesn't your stencil never lines up perfectly, maybe that's a reason. So that's just why I wanted to mention it, just in case it's helpful for someone. I'm gonna keep it there. And then what I did, so for a stencil set like this, it's really easy to kind of fix this situation, because since it's only the berries, I just first did the lower part, and then when I was done, I just slightly shifted the stencil and then did the upper part. So that's, not that difficult. But sometimes when you have a more difficult stencil that has lots more layers or more details, what you might want to do is actually cut your stamped image apart. And that's also what I did to die cut it, because obviously when the stencil doesn't line up perfectly, your die won't either. So that's why when I die cut the first set, I cut this whole thing in 3 segments. So, I just made sure that I would be able to die cut them all perfectly. So long story short, make sure that you pay attention while stamping your image. All right, so let's get started. Enough talking about positioning your stems and all of that, but since, I thought that maybe, I mean, I'm not the most seasoned stamper there is. So I thought it might be useful for some of you to hear that. All right, so I will do a few berries actually in red, since there is quite a bit of red in the collection, but only, just maybe one or two of those little sprigs here. And the rest I want to do in yellow to kind of get the yellow in the collection. So you can see here, I already have the blues, the green I have in the leaves, and then I want to get this sort of darker red and then a little bit of that yellow and this sort of more mustardy yellow. So that's the plan. All right. So I'm going to start with the berries, and as you can see, I will probably just sort of hold the stencil in place. So I'm just going to do the two smaller ones down here with red, because I don't want too many red berries, so it's not too Christmassy. And I'm using the smaller ink blending brushes for that, because they are, just tiny openings, and you don't really have to, pay attention to what you're doing too much, because it's just basically covering those little openings with ink. Since you're not going to do any ink blending as such or layering. And now I'm not going to clean the stencil right now. First, I want to do the berries up here, but I want to do those in yellow. And since they are, the berries I did in red are quite, they are, the distance between those and the yellow ones is quite large, so I'm not worried about kind of contaminating that. And I'm not being careful. I'm just basically covering the berries with ink, and that's it. And I'm just sort of shifting my stencil where I need to. Since it's only the berries, it's really easy to do. And I'm just holding it in place with my hand. I hope that's that you can see what I'm doing. But again, it's not really technical. And I'm not covering the berries, I'm not putting a full layer of ink, like consistent layer, because I want to have some sort of shading that happens. So you can see here, now the berries are perfect. But if I had just put the stencil down and just lined the stencil up with one part of the stamp set, the other part would be sort of off to one side. So let me just clean the stencil real quick. Because, I know me, if I don't clean it now and just put it to the side, I would probably put my photo on top of it or something like that. So just want to make sure that doesn't happen. And I don't ruin any paper, any photo. All right. Now off to the next part of the next stencil, which is just the rest of the berries, basically. Just making sure that that's the way. And I'm starting again with the red ones down here. This time I'm trying to use a little bit of a lighter hand with the red, because I didn't pull out a different red. I just picked the candy apple. But I want the second set of berries to be a little bit different in color. So I'm just trying to be a little bit more careful. Like so. And now I can put those off to the side. And now for the other yellow, I'm going to use, so I used sweet mustard for the first part of the yellow berries, and I'm going to use bay leaf for the second part, which sort of repeats more of that kind of green mustardy yellow that's also in the collection. And again, I'm not trying to make it evenly. I want some shading on the berries. And this way I can just kind of shift my stencil every time I get to a different part of that stamped image, and I don't have to worry about taping it down. Now, the only issue is that this so this doesn't really match too well. The bay leaf and the sweet mustard is a bit too different for my taste. So what I'm gonna do is go over the same set of berries. Sorry. So the ones I just did in bay leaf, and do just a little bit of sweet mustard again on those berries to give them more of a yellow tone and to kind of give them the same sort of undertone. Not sure how you would say it in English. So yeah. All right. And remember that once the ink has dried a little bit and has kind of soaked into the paper a little bit more, that the ink color is going to change a little bit. So, all right, cleaning that off, and then I only have the leaves to go. And they are quite simple as well, since there's only one stencil for the leaves. And for this one, again, you can see when I line that one up perfectly with the leaves down here on those flowers, it doesn't line up here. So again, I'm going to move it once I get to that part. Just grabbing my blending brush for the green. And I'm just gonna do a mix of eucalyptus, evergreen, and sage. Just, to be honest, just randomly, sort of. So the sage is the lightest one. So I'm gonna start with that. And I would use, so for the larger leaves, I would normally use the bigger ink blending brush, but right now I only have a smaller one for that color. So I will have to make do with the smaller one. And it's not that big of a deal. It's, you know, it's not that large, the area that I need to cover. And again, not doing it evenly. I'm going to go over that part here with the eucalyptus. So that this stamp set or this product suite is perfect for if you are more of a beginner in that whole ink blending stencil world, because it's really easy to line up. It's really easy to ink blend and so on. So I would say, you know, that's a great set. And you can see it's very versatile because you don't have to do just holiday themed projects with it. Right. So for this one, I can use the larger stencil. Oh, sorry, blending brush. And now the ones up top. You could even do some where you just put down a little bit of green and leave the rest white. That also looks great. I think Rachel on the card making team does that quite a bit, and I always love her projects and her cards and the way she does ink blending and stamping, just everything, basically. So, you know, you can just experiment a little bit because even when you take off the stencil and decide that's not the look I was going for, it's quite easy to just put it back on top. So I think that looks great as well with the more kind of more subtle. And you can see here, I think those do look Christmassy, I would say. But I think when you put them in a different context, they will work. And if they don't work, then I can just change them out for the yellow and the blue ones. Okay, just going to clean off the stencil real quick. And then we are done with that part. Just checking the chat real quick if I missed anything that maybe I need to answer, but I think Natalie's doing a great job. Okay. All right, so the only thing left to do is die cut this. And I already mentioned that I will have to cut that image apart a little bit and die cut it in different steps to be able to get the perfect alignment, sort of. So I'm just trying to see where I have to cut it. So I think I can cut the red ones as one. And again, if you just first pay attention while stamping, then you can definitely avoid doing this. So this is not the fault of the stamp or the stencil. This was totally just my fault. And I could die cut it as it is. It's not, you know, it doesn't look completely horrible, but then I know this would just bug me. And especially when I do the work of doing all of that ink blending, I just hate having some imperfect die cut pieces in the end. Okay. Oh, definitely, Emily. Glitter drops on the berries, for example, or even just clear sort of glossy accents or something like that would be great to give them some dimension. And I did do that. So I used those on some Christmas cards last year. And it looked great. So that's definitely a good idea. It's just not something that I would do in a YouTube live, since they take quite a while to dry. But it's definitely something that you can do just when your layout or a card or whatever is done. And then you just add those little accents and let it dry. Okay. So you can see here, I'm just going to line up that part up here for the die cutting, and I'm using some Scotch, what's it called? I don't know, just some sort of tape to keep it in place so that the die doesn't move. Sorry for the shaking. So you can see here, I think that die cut perfectly. And I'm really happy with the different sort of shades of green on that one and on this other one as well. Hope that you can see it okay. And now off to the next part. I did cut this one into 4 pieces. Maybe 3 would have worked, but you know, that part doesn't take too much time, so it's all right. And when you have a die like this that has sort of a almost straight line, long line, then one tip is to kind of place it on an angle so that you don't try to pull through or to roll through the die like this, because then it's definitely a lot more difficult to, you know, get it through your machine. So with dies like this, cover plate dies, for example, just place them on an angle and you will see that it's much easier to move them through your machine. Okay. And the last 2. And this is also something that you can do if you don't want to do, you know, maybe you only want or need, let's say 2 or 3 of those little sprigs for your project, and you don't want to do the whole ink blending, stenciling, whatever, for the whole part or for the whole thing, then just do some parts and just do partial sort of die cutting, stenciling, and so on. Or if you want to make use of some paper scraps, for example. And now the last little one. And then we are done. And then you can finally see what I have in mind for today. Louise, I'm using the Winter Berries frame product suite. So I was using the stencils and die, but there is also a coordinating hot foil plate available. Right now, the website is under maintenance. So unfortunately, I'm not, or Natalie is also not able to link to this, but it should be back up and running probably tomorrow. And then you can check out their product suite. Before the website went down for maintenance, I did check, and I believe all of it was in stock. So yeah. All right, so here's our little berries assortment. And I think that they go really well with this collection. I have to admit, these are not really colors that I would pick on my own, or not, you know, together. But since I was trying to match the colors in the collection, that's what I was going for. And I think they look nice. So let's see, what do I have in mind for today? Let me just put all of the ink blending, the ink pads and such off to the side so I don't smudge any of my papers. Now, So I was planning on using, one of those photos, maybe a larger one. And I wanted to do a big sort of kind of like a note paper, or something that looked like a large note paper that you sort of tore from, like, those ring books, like the college blocks. When you tear that page off, it leaves that edge. So that is what I was kind of thinking of doing. And what actually inspired me was a paper from another collection from the Simple Things. There's one pattern paper that has all of these different notes on it. So that was my idea. And the only thing I'm not too sure right now, so I was thinking either to cut a white piece of cardstock into a sort of note paper, supersized note paper, sorry, and put it on a pattern paper background, or the other way around, and cut this paper into a sort of note paper, and then layer my photo on top. Or if you have a really large photo, because I was also thinking of doing it with this one, then I was thinking of maybe just cutting the whole photo to look like a torn note paper and just put this one right onto the pattern paper. So these are all of the different ideas. I know, Emily. I have so many bowls, so many small bowls, but I always, justify buying another one with, well, I need them for YouTube lives. I need them for staging photos of projects. So yeah, I always have a good reason why I need another one. So now that I look at this photo, I'm kind of leaning towards that one again. So the idea was that either way, no matter if I use this photo or a pattern paper or whatever to cut it into note paper, then I was thinking of, using those berries to sort of frame it a little bit, not the whole way around, just a few clusters. Like so, put something on top, and then on a different part of the layout again, just like that. And then I also have prepared some of the curvy leaves, which is one of my favorite die sets from Pinkfresh Studio because it just always works. So I have a few pieces cut from white cardstock, a few pieces cut from vellum. And I was thinking of, mixing those in because the shape of the leaves matches the shape of the leaves of the winter berries really well. So, sort of like this-ish. Yeah, that photo is one of the best ones my husband ever took of our son. So yeah, so now I just have to decide which photo to use and which piece I want to cut into that sort of note paper thing. But this photo is also one of my favorites, and this one would leave me a little bit more room for embellishing, because I feel like, this already covers a big part of the page, but I don't want to cut it down because it needs a little bit of room around my son, around his body and his head. So I'm kind of leaning towards this one. All right. I know that I want to use this paper in some way, so I'm gonna go ahead and just cut off the manufacturer's strip. And I think that I actually want to use this for my background. I very rarely use pattern papers for my background, but this one is really nice, especially against the black and white photo, I would say. The funny thing is, so my husband, phone photography, so with his iPhone, he's the worst. Like, I don't know. Those typical photos of, he takes a photo and either you're kind of closing your eyes in that moment, or you are just looking really weird, or you're pulling a face or whatever. He just never really gets the perfect moment. But all of the photos you see that I use that look really, really good are usually taken by him with his regular camera, so an analog camera. He now also has a digital one, but I think that photographing with an analog camera really helped him, and those photos turn out great. So I don't know what it is, but as soon as he takes his phone to take some photos, I know that they are just rubbish. Anyway, so in case you still are like, what is she talking about with the torn note paper? So maybe some of you have a border punch like this that punches this sort of shape. So that's what I'm going for, but in a supersize size. So I don't want it to have this sort of size, or I also wanted to show you how you can mimic this effect when you don't have a border punch like this, with something that I think most of you should have. So I think most of you do have just a punch that punches a regular hole. It could be your crocodile, or just like this one that punches a hole, or even just a regular punch from your office, basically. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, and this is going to make Natalie really happy, I'm using a T-square ruler. And I'm just going to mark just a line, maybe about, I don't know, almost half an inch off the top. And then I'm going to use my punch and just punch some holes, making sure that I place the punch, so that the line is in the middle, kind of centered. And I'm just going to add some holes, trying to keep the distance in between similar. I'm sorry if you can't really see it right now, if I'm holding it, in a way that you can't see, but I have to see what I'm doing. And then just one, it's kind of partial. Okay, now, so you can see here already, they are not in a perfectly straight line. That's not a problem. But it gives you the idea of this kind of ring. I'm not sure if it's called college block in the US as well. In Germany, it is called a college block, where you have those papers that you use in school with this sort of spiral bound thingies. Now, to get this torn look like this one, what I'm going to do is simply use my scissors and cut 2 slits like this. Hope you can see. Trying to get them sort of straight, but then again, it's supposed to look torn, so it's not perfect. So now you can see that it does look like this, just on a larger scale. And that is exactly the look that I was going for. The only thing I'm going to do is cut off a little bit of just along the top, so it's not that long. But now I think it does look like, you know, a genuine note paper, I think. So I'm just gonna very carefully erase that pencil line because I don't, even though it is supposed to look like a torn paper, I don't want to tear all of those little things off of my photo. Okay. All right. So I am going to, you know, kind of bend one or two of those so that it does look a little bit more real. All right. Now, what I definitely want to use are these layered paper clips, first of all, because they are just cute. And second, because I feel like torn note paper, paper clip, perfect, perfect combo. So I'm not sure which one. The You and Me would be perfect for the phrase, but it's almost the same color as the background, so I'm not going to use that one. And I don't want to use the floral one because I will be using lots and lots of the berries, and I think that, you know, there would be something missing. So maybe that one. I'm just, for now, placing it on up there. I might change placement. Or maybe the Enjoy Today. We will see. So one of those at least. And then I also want to incorporate some of the vellum pieces so that I don't only have the berries, because I feel like, you know, that's the whole point. I wanted to combine those berries with the pieces from the collection. And I feel like they just work really well together. You also have some pieces in here that look like a little bit more like, you know, I think I would say blackberries maybe. Or you have this one here. So I think, you know, that's just perfect. And you can see here, so those have, some of those have some gold details. That's something that you could add on here as well with a gold pen or something. So, you know, lots of ideas. Now I am thinking of maybe doing having like a second layer behind the photo that looks like there's another paper behind it. The only issue is that I don't want to bring in too many different patterns. Maybe this one, actually. You know, just have it peek out, so it gives a little bit of the white. That one could work really nicely, actually. Let me check the rest real quick. But I think we have a winner. I am auditioning embellishments. But now I was auditioning papers. So anyway, what I'm gonna do is cut a piece of that paper that is almost the same size as my photo. So let's measure real quick. It's almost 5 by 7, roughly. So I am gonna do 6 by 8, because I can always cut it down, but once I cut it too small, I can't change that. So 6 by 8 it is. Or maybe even keeping it that way without even doing the border thing. I think that, you know, it kind of adds something, because it's not just completely white. I didn't want to do just a white border around the photo. And I'm not you know, worried if I cover up those small flowers down here. So I'm not sure if I want to do the whole the torn edge thing or not. I'm a little bit indecisive. What I do know is that I definitely want to add dimension behind the photo. So what I'm going to do is just place some foam behind it. To also have a little bit of separation between the photo and the layer behind. And this is just kind of kids craft foam that is sticky or adhesive on one side. Since I don't live in the US, I don't, you know, I think you would get it at Michael's or something like this. I think I heard other US crafters mention that they get something like this at Michael's. So in the kids craft section, I believe. All right. Okay, so you know what? I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna go for it. So this time I don't have to draw a line. I'm just gonna use this one here for my guide or as my guide. And since this is just really quick and easy to do, you know, it doesn't take too much time. But I think the effect it gives is just really nice and, you know, something you can do if you don't have a border punch like this. Okay. And what I like most about this is that it doesn't have to be perfect. You know, I'm not worried if those slits that I'm cutting are exactly even, if they're exactly the same on each hole. I don't care. I'm cutting off just a little bit at the top. So, what do we think? I think it looks nice. So now, let's see what it looks like if we place the like so. Okay. So now let's just start actually bringing in, I think I'm gonna do the love changes everything because this one has lots of different colors and I feel like it might get lost if I place lots of, you know, of the berries and flowers and so on around it. I think that one stands out a little bit more. Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to kind of push everything that I don't need anymore off to the side so that I don't miss any of the embellishments, because that sometimes happens to me in YouTube lives, that things get lost underneath a pile of stuff. And then after the live, I'm like, oh, there was another sticker sheet or whatever. Sorry. Okay. So I definitely want a place where I can put some journaling because I do want to journal about that photo. I don't always journal on my layouts, to be honest. Sometimes it's just a cute photo or just, something small like adding the place and date where the photo was taken, or maybe just a sentence. But sometimes I might have to say a bit more. So this tag is actually perfect. It says you and me. So I'm thinking if I want it sort of visible like this, or if I want to hide it and just have it something that you can pull, have it be something that you can pull out. And I think that's what I'm going to do. Just checking if there's anything else that I might want to add. Okay, I don't think so. Now, one thing that you can do, but it's too late for me now, is if it's something that you would slide underneath your photo and that you can then take out, what I would normally do is just leave an opening where I don't put any foam or dimensional tape. And that's where the tag could slide in. So let's say I wanted the tag to look like this, then I would just put foam tape around here so that I can slide the tag in and slide it out again. But it's too late for that. So I will have to do it on this piece here. And I'm not afraid of dimension on my layout, so I'm all good with that. So let's see. I want it to be on which side? On this side. And I think around here is good. So I'm just going to take a pencil to mark where I can put foam adhesive or this craft foam. And this time I can, so for this here, I used a light color because sometimes the color can shine through your photo a little bit and sort of change the look of it. But since this is pattern paper, you won't be able to see that the craft foam used is red. And that way I can, use up that color. Just make sure that you don't put it too close to the edge because then you might be able to see it and it might peek out a little bit. Which depending on the color isn't that big of a deal, but sometimes when you have this sort of, I don't know, apple green craft foam and a very girly layout, for example, that's not great. Oh, Stacy, I'm so glad to hear that you've already watched so many videos and that you were able to catch this one live. Okay, I think that's enough. So now I'm just going to use some liquid adhesive. And I'm just going to place this down. I'm not completely centered, a little bit off to the side, but not too much because I still have to keep in mind that I want to be able to slide that tag in like so. A little bit further down. Okay. Well, now it is roughly centered. But I think that's okay. So now you can see that this one, slides in and out perfectly. I will add a little bit of twine later. And now before adhering this down, I want to make sure that I first place all of the twigs and berries that I want to use, because I want them to peek out from behind the photo. Okay. It's so funny. Yeah, sometimes we do make life very difficult for ourselves, I would say. There's definitely things like that that I do. And then I see someone else do it in a different way that's a lot more simple. And I'm like, why did I never think of that? So yeah, I think you're not alone with that. All right, so let's see. Before I check for any phrases, words, and things like that, I definitely want to bring in all of the floral pieces that I want to use. So I am, as usual, using foam dots, foam squares for more dimension. You could definitely skip that if you are not a fan of dimension or not that much dimension. I personally love it. So basically, I'm now just trying to create a cluster down here with some of the twigs and berries and leaves and flowers, and then another one up here. And then in the end, I'm gonna look for maybe a few phrases or something that I can put in. And then that's it. That's the whole layout. Okay. So let's see. So I have the blue down here already. So maybe I'm gonna go in with a little bit of the yellow. And let's see if the red works or if it does look a little bit more like Christmas something. And I think when you put it together with this and maybe repeat the red with something like a flower, I think it's totally fine. I think it doesn't look like Christmas. Yes. So let's see, because in the regular ephemera, you also have a few flowers. And also some that are just gold and white that also work perfectly, and work perfectly with the heat embossed pieces. And I want to make sure that I bring in the different colors, so blue, yellow, and red mostly, in both clusters. So if I have blue in one cluster, then I'm normally gonna repeat it in the other one as well. It doesn't have to be exactly the same shade maybe, or in the same way, but I do want it to be repeated. I'm trying to decide if I'm also going to put a few things behind the pattern paper just to give it even more dimension or even more depth, because you can see there's another layer. So you have the background, one layer, second layer, third layer, fourth layer, or even fifth if you kind of like that. And this is now just actually just playing around, and just adding as little or as many as you like. And I feel like I won't even need the curvy leaves because there are so many die cut pieces in the collection already. Maybe just like this. I feel like I don't want to cover up too much of the photo, so I'm going to move the paper clip a little bit. but I do want some of the berries to peek out from behind the paper clip just to give it even more diamond or depth. Because I personally like it. You know, if you feel like this is too much for your taste, then just do a little bit less. Now I feel like I want some sort of vellum flower on top of my photo down here. I think that one works well. So I would repeat this sort of, it's not this, as I said, it's not the same shade. This is more of this corally pink. This is a little bit more red, but still it's some sort of red. And I'm gonna use some foam adhesive and I'm gonna place it exactly behind the flower center so it is sort of hidden in plain sight. I'm trying to, while, you know, placing all of the flowers, I'm trying to find other pieces that sort of break up these flower clusters because, you know, I don't want it to be too much. Oh, thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. So yeah, if you feel like it's too much, or sometimes I feel like I can add another one, and then at the end I look at the page and I'm like, I think I went overboard. Then it's time, usually it's time for me to just take a step back, maybe let the layout, leave the layout on my desk for a few minutes, or even maybe come back the next day and then look at it again. Because sometimes I can just get sort of caught up in it and just add another piece, another piece, another piece. Okay, I think out of the ephemera, I think there's nothing more that I want to add. But I think that this circle journaling spot here is perfect because of the black, it kind of stands out. But it definitely adds something. Okay. All right, so I know that I'm not going to bring in any of those cardstock alphas. They fit, like the design fits really well, but they are just too big for my layout. These would work perfectly, but I don't really know what I would spell, to be honest, because I already have sort of a title on the paper clip. Let's have a look at those. They are always one of my favorite things in the Pinterest Studio collections. So love, darling, you are magic. I love who you are. They would all work great for this page. Maybe I should start adhering things down so they don't keep moving all the time. So I know that I'm going to use this journaling spot. I think it looks perfect down here. Sort of peeking out from behind the vellum flowers. And I think I want this. So don't cringe. I did tear this off because I only want this part of it, this part to peek out. And a little bit of foam adhesive. If you could see my desk right now, it's, yeah. And what I usually do after every live is I usually just, first of all, get up off my, from my desk and just walk out and grab a cup of coffee or something before I tackle this whole disaster zone that looks like a tornado hit it. think we're good on time, actually. So I'm just gonna check that one in down here. And then let's see if there's any more of the vellum I want to use. Let's take another look at the curvy leaves. I think I'm just gonna bring in a few of the vellum ones because they add a very, a very subtle little something. But I don't think I'm gonna bring in any of the white cardstock ones. Again, I don't want to go overboard, but I feel like I want to bring in a few of the ones that I stenciled, ink blended and so on. So it wasn't all in vain. Now let's start adhering things up here. So first of all, I'm going to add a little bit of foam behind the paper clip. But just where it covers the photo, so I can still move the photo around. And then let's see. So I really like this yellow flower up here. So that's a yes. So I usually have to do like a desk reset after every project, even if I keep working on with the same sort of products or with the same collection. Once I finish a project, a layout, card, whatever, I sort of have to do a reset. So I have to clean up, put things back where they belong. Maybe not, all of the things, but at least arrange everything on my table, put sort of the collection back in one pile, because otherwise I just can't keep working. It just doesn't work for me. I really want the darker blue. So I do have the dark blue down here. I did two versions, so that one was the summer shower and the other one was with the storm. And this one fits the collection, as I said. It does fit this light blue, but it doesn't make an appearance on this layout apart from this little banner. So I feel like the dark blue is the better choice. And I just really like that shade of blue. I'm not usually a blue sort of fan, but that one is pretty. Oh, it definitely helps, Louise. Sometimes while doing this reset, while putting things back where they belong, I get new ideas because, when I pile everything together and arrange everything, sometimes I see combinations of papers or something that inspire me. So yeah, I'm all for a craft space, desk, whatever you want to call it, reset. So I do need something down here. I did have that piece, but I feel like it just sort of sticks out a little bit with this white gold without color. I'm just sliding in that red berry, just a really tiny break. So how are we doing on time? 15 minutes left. I think that's perfect. Oh, and also, before so while I was preparing, I also stamped and die cut this piece, You Are Wonderful. That is from a different set. I didn't link it in the description, in the video description. I will add that once the site is back up. This is from the Delicate Foliage set. I think another product suite that would work great with this collection, because you can see here it's all of these twines, or I don't know what you would call it. And it's just foliage. And there is also a coordinating hot foil plate for it and stencils. So that was another option that I had. But since these berries reminded me of the berries in the Winter Berries product suite, I wanted to use that. And I think that looks cute down here. The You Are Wonderful. Or maybe here. What do you say? I think it gets a little bit lost down here, but on top of that, I think that looks great. So I'm going to use it. And it's just, this one is really nice. It's a beautiful font, I would say, a beautiful scripty font. And the die is just, I think, it even cuts out a little inner piece of the Y. So yeah, I think that's, where did I put the smalls? Told you, it's a mess, everything. So this is a little bit fiddly, but since I love dimension, I do have to add some foam adhesive behind it. You could definitely just glue it down with liquid adhesive and call it done. But I can't. So I think like so. Now I still need to glue this part down. Just trying to make sure I place it like I had it before. So slightly off to one side, so it's not completely on top of the other pattern paper. And I need one little piece down there. And maybe one or two more here. And a little bit of twine in the tag. That's definitely gonna go in. So let's see. I had this I love who you are. But now that I have the You Are Wonderful, I feel like it's too much. Even though I really like this phrase. Yeah, I don't see anything right now that I would add. Let's have a quick look at the puffy stickers. Yep, that's gonna go. So this one says here for this. And then, no, that's too much. I think that's all that I want to add of the puffy stickers. So there's also this set of puffy title stickers. I think they are great, but I don't think that I would put any on that particular layout. I think it's probably too much. So obviously I'm gonna add enamel dots because, there's no layout without enamel dots. But let's see. there anything here? I kind of like the scalloped edge down here. Trying to see if maybe, what do we think? Do I like that? I think it looks nice, but without it, it looks a little bit, I think it looks a little bit lighter, a little bit more airy. No, I think it's too much green. If it was a different color, then I would probably use it. But since I already have the green here and lots of green in the leaves, I think it's too much. Nope. Okay, I think if I miss any question, please just repeat it again or if it's something that Natalie isn't able to answer, but I think she already caught all of the questions. So this one here, I love the blue, and it says we will hold each other up. And since this is a photo of my son and me hugging, like holding each other, I feel like it's perfect. But I'm not sure if it, if it's too much. But I do like the addition of this lighter blue. I just don't know where to put it. Or do I change it? I like that. I like the blue. And I will put this up here because I do like the here for this, and I like the black with the gold. Even though it's partly covered by the paperclip, you can still read it, and it repeats the black and gold from down here. So I like that. Okay, so definitely something here. And again, maybe I did already put the foam adhesive. Or maybe I should put the lighter blue now that I have this light blue in this phrase sticker. I don't want to have too much green. So if you look at this, you only see 2 blueberries and the rest is green, so it gets kind of lost. So I want this piece here that has more blueberries. Almost done. And I'm actually great on time. That doesn't happen often when I do my YouTube lives. So for those of you who watch my YouTube lives, or at least some of them, you know that I often don't get to finish and have to have some homework to do after the live ends. So just adding a little bit of foam behind the paper clip so that it doesn't sag at this point. And then I want one more thing here because I feel like it does look a little bit empty. But not too much yellow, blue. Too much green. So I don't want to, it already is quite a bit of green. And I feel like this one looks a bit lonely if I don't put any more of the white curvy leaves anywhere else. So what to do, what to do. You know what? I just remembered. Hi, Heather. Thank you. So let's see. So you know what? I think that is the only thing that I will figure out after the live. I will put on a few embellishment or a few enamel dots around the page before I turn around my camera and then figure out this little part here once the live is over. So you don't have to watch me auditioning more embellishments. Okay. So that's a good point, Louise. So that's something that so Louise said that the placement of the embellishment draws your eye across the photo. And that is something that I usually, not always like consciously, but often subconsciously and just out of habit or out of experience, that I sort of put embellishments or clusters in a way that it moves your eye across the page, across the parts that are important, which is usually the photos. So yeah, that's definitely a good point. And for me, there's, with enamel dots, there's not really too much. All right, so imagine there was some twine in here. And actually one thing that I might do, but this is also something that I will think of about once I'm done, is I might cut down the background just slightly, like not even a quarter of an inch or maybe a quarter of an inch on each side, and then add a white frame around it. But this is something that I will debate after the live so that I don't bore you. All right, so again, imagine the twine, imagine something here maybe. And I think that's mostly it, maybe some machine stitching around the border. So yeah, I hope you like it. Let's see. Let's see if I missed any more questions. Oh yeah, I'm definitely putting some journaling on here. And I'm also going to add something here, probably like just a phrase or maybe just a date on this little piece. That's so kind of you, Emily, that I never bore you. All right, I'm gonna flip my camera so that I can properly say goodbye. First of all, let's see if there's a winner. There is. So Stacy's Creations, you are today's $15 gift card winner. Congratulations. All you have to do to claim your prize is email leah@pinkfreshstudio.com, just LEA, no H at the end, and give her 2 to 3 business days to get back to you. I think maybe if a day or two more right now since she's traveling. Yeah, and then have fun spending it once the website is back up, maybe on the Winterberries frame or something like that. Yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed today's YouTube live, and check the Facebook group and my social media for the finished project. And then I think so in 2 weeks, it's Natalie back with you, and then I'll be back in a month. And then the next YouTube live should be next Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. And that's either Heather or Leah. I think Heather. So anyway, hope you have a great day and hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for joining me and take care, everyone. Bye.